When your words get twisted, what you mean versus what a narcissist hears. Trying to communicate with a narcissist can feel eerily similar to speaking a foreign language to someone who refuses to learn. At first, you approach the situation with patience, optimism, and the belief that clarity will eventually lead to connection. But the longer the misunderstanding persists, the more you feel frustration growing in your chest. A slow burn that eventually explodes into raised voices and desperate attempts to be understood. Yet psychologists repeatedly emphasize, with a narcissist, the problem isn't your tone, your vocabulary, or your delivery. The problem is the lens through which they hear you. Narcissists do not process language the way emotionally healthy individuals do. They interpret words not as communication but as a potential threat, challenge, or insult. What you say and what they hear are rarely the same thing, and the gap between the two becomes the emotional battlefield. Many victims of narcissistic relationships find themselves stuck in this exhausting cycle of explaining, repeating, clarifying, and pleading, believing that if they just communicated better, more calmly, more kindly, or more logically, things would change. But psychological research on narcissistic personality structures reveals something sobering. Narcissists don't listen to understand. They listen to defend, twist, and reframe reality in a way that protects their ego. Their emotional development is arrested at a stage where accountability feels like annihilation, and empathy feels like weakness. So while you may approach the conversation with love, fairness, and the hope of collaboration, the narcissist enters it with one mission: maintain superiority at any cost. For the victim, understanding this difference isn't just validating. It's crucial to breaking the cycle of self-blame. This is where the emotional confusion comes in. You want to believe the best. You want to honor your values, patience, kindness, forgiveness, communication. But somewhere deep in your spirit, something feels wrong. The conversation feels circular. Logic dissolves. Reality becomes twisted until you begin questioning your own memory, intentions, and worth. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance, the painful mental tension that forms when your desire for connection clashes with undeniable emotional mistreatment. Victims often internalize the confusion, believing the dysfunction must somehow be their fault. Yet the truth is much harder and much more freeing. You cannot reason with someone whose emotional survival depends on being right, validated, and unchallenged. Understanding this becomes the first step toward emotional protection. Narcissists hear through a filter shaped by insecurity, grandiosity, and emotional entitlement. So if your words do not feed their need for admiration, compliance, or control, they are rejected, distorted, or weaponized. This is why conversations that should foster understanding instead escalate into chaos and emotional exhaustion. The narcissist is not misinterpreting because they lack intelligence. They are misinterpreting because they lack emotional accountability. In psychology, this is described as defense-based perception, meaning the narcissist hears every disagreement as disrespect, every boundary as betrayal, and every request as an attempt to control them. For the victim, the healthiest step is not to speak louder, but to stop expecting emotional reciprocity from someone incapable of offering it. To illustrate this dynamic, consider a simple relational conflict: finances. The situation begins with a calm, reasonable attempt to establish boundaries. You really hurt me when you promised we'd save money, but then withdrew funds without telling me. To a healthy partner, this is an invitation to communication, responsibility, and shared repair. But to a narcissist, these words do not register as honesty or vulnerability. They register as attack. And so the narcissistic script begins. You're trying to control me. Why are you doing this to me? Are you calling me a liar? I only acted this way because you forced me to. Notice the pattern. Accountability is deflected, the victim is blamed, and the narrative is rewritten to protect the narcissist's ego. What began as a request for shared responsibility devolves into emotional chaos where the narcissist becomes the victim and the actual victim is painted as controlling, unreasonable, or unstable. Psychologists refer to this manipulation as gaslighting paired with blame shifting, two of the most damaging dynamics in toxic relationships. Over time, repeated exposure erodes the victim's confidence, emotional stability, and sense of reality. Many begin apologizing just to end the argument, even when they've done nothing wrong. The long-term impact is profound. Anxiety, self-doubt, hypervigilance, loss of identity, and emotional numbness. But there is hope, and it begins with clarity. Once a victim understands that the narcissist's reactions are not personal but patterned, predictable psychological defenses, they can begin shifting from emotional participation to emotional detachment. Boundaries become essential. Statements become concise. Arguments are no longer attempts at resolution but strategic boundaries designed to protect mental health. Support systems, therapy, community education help rebuild the self-esteem that narcissistic manipulation attempts to destroy. Because at the end of the day, you cannot force someone to hear truth when their identity depends on rejecting it. You cannot teach accountability to someone who experiences accountability as attack. And you cannot build connection with someone who sees communication not as a bridge, but as a battlefield. But you can protect yourself. And that is where your power finally begins. When the conversation shifts from money to trust, something far deeper begins to unravel. What appears on the surface as a simple disagreement becomes an emotional X-ray revealing fractures in the relationship that have long been ignored. When you softly confess, "It's not just about the money. I'm having trouble trusting you," you are offering vulnerability, the raw currency of emotional intimacy. But to a narcissist, vulnerability is not an invitation to connection. It is an opening to exploit or a threat to defend against. Psychologists note that narcissists experience vulnerability as danger because it exposes their inadequacy, something their ego refuses to face. So instead of reflection, remorse, or responsibility, they respond with irritation, belittling, or rage, because diminishing your feelings allows them to avoid facing their own fault. Their dismissive reply, "Why are you making this such a big deal?" is not an accident. It is a tactic. By minimizing the situation, they subtly communicate that your emotional reality is exaggerated, irrational, and overly sensitive. This psychological maneuver, known as emotional invalidation, slowly erodes a victim's self-trust. Over time, victims in narcissistic relationships learn to second-guess themselves. Am I overreacting? Am I being dramatic? Maybe it really isn't that serious. And while the narcissist may temporarily offer forgiveness or pretend to move forward, their version of resolution is not healing. It is resetting the dynamic so they can continue operating without accountability. Beneath the surface, another psychological pattern emerges: the silent treatment. When the narcissist senses that control may be slipping, withdrawing affection and communication becomes a weapon. This is not silence born from reflection. It is silence engineered to create anxiety, guilt, and desperation. Psychologists compare this behavior to operant conditioning. By withholding connection, the narcissist trains the victim to avoid conflict, avoid boundaries, and avoid speaking truth, because emotional silence feels unbearable. Victims often break first, apologizing for issues they didn't create simply to restore emotional peace. And in that moment, the narcissist learns something devastating. Your need for harmony outweighs your need for dignity. When you attempt once more to build a bridge, "I love you, and I want to resolve this," the narcissist doesn't hear love. They hear opportunity. They hear proof that you are still invested, still attached, still moldable. And while they may say words that mimic vulnerability, "I'll change," "I care," "I want to work on this," psychology identifies this as future faking, promising change for the sake of prolonging access, control, or emotional advantage. Your hope becomes their leverage. Your compassion becomes their doorway back into dominance. But when the conversation shifts toward consequences, counseling, boundaries, accountability, change, the tone darkens. To a narcissist, therapy is not a path to healing. It is an accusation. Counseling threatens the delicate illusion of superiority they've built. So instead of engaging, they project, "You don't love me? You're attacking me? You're trying to change me." Because if you become the problem, they never have to look in the mirror. And if you persist, many narcissists escalate into character assassination, publicly portraying you as unreasonable, unstable, unforgiving, or cruel. This process, known as smear campaigning, is designed to isolate you socially, discredit your voice, and protect their carefully curated image. Then, as predictably as a script, comes comparison. My ex never treated me like this. It is a manipulative mixture of nostalgia, threat, and punishment. In psychology, this tactic is called triangulation, meant to provoke insecurity and reestablish dominance through fear of replacement. Suddenly, conflict isn't about resolution. It's about control, hierarchy, and emotional submission. By the time the conversation ends, most victims feel dizzy. Not because they misunderstood, but because the narcissist deliberately twisted reality until nothing made sense. Psychologists describe this experience as conversational abuse, where the goal is not communication but destabilization. And the damage is profound. Victims walk away questioning not the narcissist, but themselves. This is the devastating truth. You cannot resolve conflict with someone who believes accountability is humiliation and compromise is defeat. Narcissists do not hear your words. They hear threats to their ego. They do not feel your pain, they feel inconvenience. And they do not respond to your need for clarity, they respond to their need for control. So if you find yourself tangled in these conversations, repeating, explaining, justifying, pause. Not every conflict is meant to be solved. Some are meant to reveal the truth. And with a narcissist, the truth is this: what you say may be honest, reasonable, and rooted in love, but what they hear will always serve one purpose: protecting their fragile illusion of superiority. Now the question becomes, not how do I get them to understand me, but rather, how do I protect myself from someone who refuses to? Healing is not a single event, nor a sudden revelation. It's a slow unfolding, a process that takes patience, courage, and the willingness to face truths you once avoided. And if anything in this video helped you recognize a pattern, understand yourself more clearly, or finally feel seen instead of dismissed, then don't let that clarity fade into silence. Take a moment to like this video, share your thoughts or your story in the comments, and subscribe so you never have to navigate this kind of emotional battlefield alone. Because your voice matters, your experience is valid, your healing is real, and no matter what anyone tried to make you believe, you are worthy of safety, understanding, and peace.